I'm Slug Useless. I played guitar in the band Useless Pieces of Shit from about 1984 to about 88, 89. We were in a really small music scene with no one in it. So basically the first thing we had to do when we started the band was go around and recruit people to be punk rockers. And then, of course, there was no venues to play, so we had to go find venues to play at. Prior to UPS, there was a club on 4th Avenue called the Backstage that kind of was the hub of the punk rock scene, but it burned down in 83, I believe, 82 or 83. And after that, the scene kind of all broke down. So that was when we started UPS. And basically we weren't just starting a band, we were trying to start a scene.
When did you move to Tucson? Where are you from? Did you grow up there? Like when did you
No, I grew up in Syracuse, New York.
Okay.
And I moved to Tucson in 1980.
Oh wow, okay, cool. And so wasn't Lenny from New York too?
He was from Massachusetts, but
Oh, okay.
he was
Gotcha.
already there. He was from like somewhere out in Cape Cod area. Getting a bunch of punk rockers to do something is kind of like herding cats, but Paul Young and I went around to all the little Knights of Pythias and all the little redneck places like that, and we made up this organization called THC, Tucson Hardcore, but we told them it was a youth group that we were putting on dances for kids. So I had a mohawk, so I had my hat on, and Paul had long hair, so he had his hair all tucked up in a hat. And we're like talking to these people who are like, this one guy was talking about how like whenever the police helicopters flew over, he would stop and salute them. And so it was basically, we just had to put on a big show and go around and like in Knights of Pythias, we had a bridge room, we had some shows.
Wow. So you were just like trying to get places to play, and you were just
Yeah.
From what you were saying about getting punks to do stuff, but you and Paul sounded like you guys were pretty proactive in like making this happen,
Yeah, we definitely were. We were just trying to get everything going. He was
Yeah.
working at the record store Roads to Moscow at the time too, so he was like a pretty big figure in the music scene at that time. I think before that he worked at another record store, so he was pretty well known.
Right. Yeah, everyone talks, like almost everyone has a Paul Young story. So you and Paul, how did you guys recruit the rest of the band?
Well, Paul kind of the two things kind of didn't really have much to do with each other. The band was already going on before Paul even joined the band. The Corporate Horse kind of broke up, and then Civil Death broke up, and Conflict broke up. So basically, all the bands were gone, basically.
So those were that era you were talking about that played at like Backstage.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So when the
like
Backstage went down, all these bands broke up. There was other ones like Rhoda Capella and the Seldons and Clean Dog. I mean, there was a lot of bands that basically ceased to exist after that happened. Wow. But in that summer, it was kind of like this reorganizing. For a while, there was this band called the Numbskulls that was like all these all-star. It had Lenny in it, and it had Phil and John Minks and Paul, but it was a disaster because it was like, 7 people all going different directions. So after that kind of fell apart, we thought, well, why don't we just keep doing the Corporate Whores, and we'll just get Lenny to be the lead singer, because that was one of the problems with the Corporate Whores is we never really could get a good lead singer. So Lenny was the singer, and then we kind of like changed the music a little bit to make it a little bit more I don't know what the formula is the right word to use, but to make it more hardcore, because the Corporate Horse were kind of avant-garde. And it just kind of took off from there. And cool. Then, because there was no scene or anything, we were like super over the top with everything. The stage, there was people graffitiing all over town. The police thought we were a gang, so we were on being watched by the police, and you know, we were way over the top. So people thought that we were a lot crazier than we actually were, because we let them think that.
That's good.
Which actually came back to bite us in the end, because we could never get a show at any clubs in Tucson or Phoenix because of the reputation that we had created that wasn't real. But people were afraid to have us play in their venues because they thought they would get trashed, even though no venue ever got trashed that we played in.
Wow, that's yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's awesome, gets people talking and stuff, and then at the same time, you know, nobody's gonna want to book you, and you know, now like, tell me a little bit about the club scene at that time. You were talking about going to these different weird places trying to get gigs. I know that, I think like the Unitarian Church,
Yeah,
didn't they have some gigs going on for a while? Like,
it's basically the way it would work is that we would get a venue. The church is a perfect example. They start having shows there, but then there would always be some incident that happened that made it so we couldn't have shows there anymore.
That's it. No more punk rock shows.
Like, I can't remember exactly what happened at the Unitarian Church, but the Knights of Pythias, like after the show, they'd have this huge cleanup crew that would clean up everything to make sure that, you know, the rednecks didn't find anything in the morning. And someone missed that there was a beer can in the mailbox. So when they found that, they kicked us out of there.
Oh, shit.
And then the card room, I'm not sure why we stopped doing the card room thing. But there was
the card room. What's the card room?
It was this place that was kind of off country club, and it was a bridge club. That's what it was. It was a bridge club.
Nice.
So it was just another venue, another space.
I love it. That's great.
But then we stumbled in, started doing shows again, and there was a place called Nino's that started doing shows. So when that stuff started happening, the renting of venues kind of fell apart, and then also the structure that we were using as far as the group that was doing that, it kind of fell apart too, because they kind of started getting burned out, and Paul was going on to bigger and better things. And
so you're saying that the lineup was changing in the band at that time?
No, it didn't. Like I said, this doesn't have anything to do with the band. It was just like an organization that was going on, that was putting on these shows.
Gotcha. And so you were saying the band didn't start out with Paul.
No.
When did he join? How did he come in and go? Because you guys were obviously friends before that and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we wanted him to be part of it initially, but I don't think that he thought we were serious or whatever. But after we played our first show with Crucifix at the Danger Zone, I don't know if you remember the Danger Zone. Nope. It was AKA Theater for a while.
Okay, sure.
Also, I think it was even
on Congress
a coffee
Street
place for a while.
Right, on Congress.
Yeah. Well, it was a club for just like not even a year.
Somebody else in these interviews have mentioned the Danger Zone too. That's such a cheesy name. It's hilarious. The Danger Zone.
But after that show, and he saw us, he was like, "Yeah, I want to join." So he joined the band after that. So
cool.
Yeah. He was with us when we played with UK Subs. I think it was in March or something the following year.
What do you think he added to the band that, like, you know, what does Paul Young add to the band when he gets in the band? Besides that, he's this Viking-looking dude with long hair, and everybody else has got shaved heads and shit.
Well, what we wanted him to do was we wanted him to just play crazy lead guitar the whole time, like never play any chords or anything.
Right.
But he wasn't comfortable with that. But he was getting that direction. But you know, he ended up leaving the band, so he never quite achieved that. He went on to do Blood Spasm.
Is that why he left the band?
He actually got in a fight with Lenny in practice. And Lenny was afraid of him, so we had to let him go.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the famous TCCC broadcast Halloween era Halloween show of UPS playing?
I don't really know how we even got involved in that. I really don't. But, you know, we were like, oh, gonna play on the sidewalk. So it was supposed to be like this little like cameo thing on the sidewalk, you know, not with much of a crowd or anything. But it just like snowballed into this huge event. They had to, like, I think Congress Street even got closed off. And the people who were doing the show were freaking out because they thought that they were gonna get killed, because I think it was Halloween too, so everyone was dressed up weird too. Like they're punks to begin with, and then they're dressed up really weird on top of that.
Yeah, yeah. And the
And
video is so
it,
so awesome.
it was just mayhem.
It looks
But
like it.
the thing that really made that an event was this guy Charlie Brown. I don't know if you know Charlie Brown.
Just
Well,
interviewed him.
he took the footage and synced it with the studio music and basically turned it into the nice thing that it is.
Oh,
I mean,
that's actually synced with the
yeah,
studio recording.
yeah.
That's
Isn't that
awesome.
incredible? Yeah, he did a
That's,
really excellent
oh
job.
yeah, he's really talented. Yeah, that was the last person I interviewed. I just went to his studio and interviewed him, and he had some really funny stories about that night. And but he never mentioned that, which is really cool. So I'll have to ask him about. I'll have to, yeah. But he did a great job. I actually didn't even notice, and I watched those videos, and yeah, that's pretty good job. But so it probably sounded a lot rawer. We'll say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was actually musically quite a nightmare because it was out on the street. I think Paul broke a string on his guitar right away and had to get his backup guitar.
Right. That's on the tape. Yeah, he breaks like immediately breaks a string and like
No,
yeah. Yeah, maybe also I'm really interested in like the house party aspect of the scene back then. Like, you know, was there now did you guys like was there any house parties that you would play at often, like the Opinion Zero house, or like
we actually, to be perfectly honest, we actually did play in Tucson that many times as UPS. But yeah, we played at the OZ house a couple times. It was really hard for us to get shows. Like that thing that I told you about earlier really came back and reared its ugly head against us.
wow, I had no idea. That's really
Yeah,
that's crazy.
the last tour we went on, we couldn't get a show in the state of Arizona.
Wow. That's so wild.
Yeah,
That
it
is
was
wild
crazy.
because you guys are like are legendary, and like yeah, like it's just funny that like you're legendary in the state that wouldn't let you play that you were from, you know.
Like we
uh,
never played the Rex.
wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
it is crazy.
Yeah, that's really wild. um yeah,
But yeah, the
so
house parties. There was a couple houses.
I
There was
remember seeing a flyers for Opinion Zero, like you guys played at their house, like played a couple of
yeah,
parties there.
but way back before that, there was this place called the Chicken House, which it was this house right down the street from the buffet off of 9th Avenue. And it was funny, these three punk rock girls moved in there at the beginning, and they bought three chickens. I think they might have named them after themselves or whatever. Well, anyways, after a period of time, they all moved out and all the chickens died but one. So this house had a chicken that basically it lived off of eating all the cockroaches that were in the house.
Oh, good.
But you'd go to a show and there would be a chicken sitting on top of the door sleeping.
That's
That was
awesome.
that
People
was a crazy scene. But like as far as 818 and 814, the thing about those two houses was that there was, for some reason, there was some kind of stability at those locations. Like the cops didn't come and break up things that went on there. You didn't have a bunch of rednecks show up to beat up the punks. It was an odd location. I mean, it was like it was a place that was safe to go, that you knew you wouldn't get messed with. And yeah, it was just, I mean, I remember those two houses always being there. You know, I don't remember them not being a place to go to.
So,
You know,
so yeah, so you have memories of them like always, there was always something going on there?
it wasn't always the same thing, but you know, like originally the 818 house was the more popular one, the one that had most things going on. And then eventually it became the 814 house. And I don't know who like paid the rent or anything like that, but somehow they kept it going, and it worked out. And it was cool that you didn't, I don't know why, but the police didn't come and break up the shows there, where any other house that you would have shows at, the police would always come and break it up.
What about, did you ever go to any parties at, I think it was Chris from Rex, his house? He lived, I guess, like by the stadium, sort of, and like the what's his name, Eric from Blood Spasm, the bass player,
Yeah.
was telling me about some really like just a bunch of different shows that happened there. Like the lineups were, you know, amazing touring bands and stuff because they had the connection with Rex and stuff. I don't know if you ever went to any parties there.
Yeah, I did. They it was kind of like a regular venue for a while after, I think that was, I can't remember, I can't remember the time frame where that fits in as far as the backstage, but that was kind of an older place. And then eventually Chris did the Rex, which was insane. I don't know if they ever went there or not, but every show got bigger and bigger and bigger and crazier and crazier and crazier. And luckily it got shut down before anybody got killed, because I think that was the way it was going, because every show it got crazier, the stuff that was going on outside.
So so what happened with UPS? What was the like?
Well, when we came back from our second tour, we were all kind of burned out, and we went into the studio and we recorded 2 7-inch records. We released one of them, and I guess everybody just kind of lost interest at that point and got too caught up in their own personal lives. And the thing that I guess that really killed it was Chris, our drummer, Chris O'Brien.
Rat shit.
Yeah, he I
Was
don't know if you're
really quick.
familiar.
Was he like a second drummer of the band?
He was
Third?
the third, well, it's really the second drummer, but yeah, I
And
mean,
he's on those singles, those like those recordings.
yes, he was a great drummer.
Yeah.
He when we first started the band, we auditioned him for a drummer, but he was only like 14 years old, so we were just like, you're just too young. And then when our first drummer quit, we needed a new drummer. He was 16, so we are like, okay, you're old enough. But what was I saying about Chris?
Oh, you were saying that about the breakup and after the
Oh
recording.
yeah. So there was this band, Helio. There's this guy, Helios Creed. I don't know.
Sure, of course, yeah.
Well, they were looking for a new drummer, and the drummer that they wanted didn't want to play with them. So they used Chris as bait to bring that guy in. So Chris blew us off to go to San Francisco to play for Helios Creed.
Oh shit.
And that kind of was the end of the band. We were kind of not really that tight together at that time anyways, but that was definitely the final blow. And then I moved away in like 89.
There really is something different about the sound of the Tucson hardcore sound from that era, and it's really something about it. Maybe it's got a little like more LSD in it or something. Like it's got this really fucked up, like in the best way possible, sort of like, yeah, just like this little sprinkle of LSD in your hardcore. What do you think about that? Like, how would you describe the sound back then?
Well, I would blame it on the Residents, because a lot of people were really into the Residents in Tucson. And
thank God.
you know, they basically were a band that would do anything. And that's kind of, I know that's what we're always trying to promote in Tucson. Like when we had the Corporate Hordes house, if you came over to our house, we would put an instrument in your hand and make you do a recording. didn't matter if you were a musician or not. That's just what we did when we lived there. That's
awesome.
what we did all the time. Smoked pot and recorded bad music on cassette tape.
Do you still have like boxes of tapes of that shit, or did you get rid of it?
If you look on the internet, there's on the Corporate Horse page on Bandcamp.
Yep.
There's a bunch of things called Meet the Festering Sores.
Oh, cool.
And there's basically four 90-minute cassettes of just things that were taken from all those recording sessions and put into.
I just wonder, like, what was it about that time that was really special? You know, like, what was unique and special about that time to you?
Well, it was a unique experience because of the time it was in the 80s. And then in Tucson, you know, there wasn't a lot of young people. So it was a tight-knit group of people that would sit around and procrastinate together. So there was a lot of things that were accomplished, but not a lot that was recorded. A lot of bands, not a lot of recordings of those bands. Pictures are hard to find. So, so it was just kind of a time period where everyone was hanging out, just doing what they were doing and not caring about whether it was recorded or anything like that. I'm lucky that I kept as much stuff as I did that I could release. And Joey Furno had a bunch of stuff too that I could release, so that there is some record of these bands, because there was a lot of great bands that, you know, no one will ever hear again that existed, that never recorded anything. And then there was a lot of bands that were just a lot of fun that, you know, I'm sure no one even remembers anymore. Like there was one band that used to play A14 all the time called Five Prong Stud Assault. And the requirement of the band was you couldn't be any taller than Sam Zero, the singer. I think that had Eric in it, and Hellrat Dave. And
I have some flyers, or at least one flyer for 814 that has that band on the bill. Yeah, I think actually that it might have been, they might have opened up for Beefeater from DC.
Yeah. They were very popular, but I bet you there's no recordings of that at all.
Exactly. You know? You're so right, man. It's like nowadays you know, everything is recorded every second. And back then it's like, I am having such a hard time just, you know, any pictures or any, you know, it's there's just not a lot. There's not a lot. And so
it's great that you're doing this, because it's like, that was kind of my motivation behind doing what I was doing with the label too, is that I was like, you know, whether this is real culture or not, I don't know, but it needs to be out there for someone to hear and see, you know.
Absolutely. Cheers to that. And I'm so grateful that, like, when I found your label, I was just like, oh, it's all there. Yeah, it's really, really cool. Do you have any good Greasy Tony stories?
I don't have any good Greasy Tony stories, but I have a story about 814, because like you're saying, it was kind of like in the middle of mayhem, but like no one really noticed it that much.
Right, and the Circle K there.
But it was kind of like, you know, if you put a flag up, someone would notice you. Because one time, Dave Goodman and we stood in front of 814 and we were like, let's see how long, it was like a Saturday night, you know, everybody's cruising up and down Speedway. And we said, well, let's see how long we can stand here before someone throws something at us. And it was just seconds and someone threw something at us. Where if you were at the house, like no one would even notice you, but standing on the side of the road, someone's got to throw something at you.
Oh my God. Only like, you know, like, yeah, most people would never think to do that and actually go through with it. But like that, I love that you guys did that. You're just like, let's just do it. Like, see how long it takes. And then somebody threw. Yeah,
And,
that was.
there was a lot of boredom going on in Tucson, so that was a lot of motivation behind a lot of stuff
Oh
too.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I interviewed Erin Webb, and she was telling me she had some great stories about you and how you helped them because they were. She was like, we were so bad, and she was just saying how you would like help them like tune their guitars or like.
Yeah,
Does that ring a bell?
yeah.
Yeah.
I had several attempts of trying to get an all-girl band together because I wanted the women to get involved in the music and not just to watch it and be in the audience. First one was called Just Us, and there the guitar player, I tuned her guitar to an open E, so all she had to do is play bar chords with one finger.
Yep.
And then Aaron's band was called The Blind Leading the Blind, and they definitely learned how to play their instruments, and they were pretty good. We had them open for us at Tequila Mockingbird. I don't know if you ever, that place probably doesn't exist anymore. I think it was
that?
It was in Elcon Mall.
Oh, duh. Yes. Oh my God, I didn't know that that's where the show was. Oh my God.
We had them and What Went Wrong open for us, all underage, and it was a bar, and the bar owner went absolutely ape shit. I mean, I think most of the girls in that band, I think, were like under 16 years old, even like they were like super young. But we had them and What Went Wrong open for us.
Well, man, it was so great to talk to you and meet
nice
you.
To meet you too, Chris.
Yeah, and I will keep you posted on how this goes. And thank you so much. I had a good time talking to you.
All right, good time talking to you too.
All right, man.
All right, you take care.
I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.